People are like, why is everybody talking about the losing team, not the winning team? Why is everybody ripping into Josh Allen? And with Josh Allen, I mean, he is just like the modern day version of Brett Favre, except for more athletic. Like Favre couldn't do what Allen does with his legs when he leaves the pocket. Guy's an athlete. But like once again, everything's open underneath. You're trying to eat clock regardless. A field goal is going to tie that game, you think, if you have a field goal kicker. Well, we'll get into that here in a second.
Yeah.
Tyler Bass cost me some money yesterday.
Oh, no.
But everything is wide open underneath, and Josh Allen's taking the deep shot down the field. So everybody's tearing into him. It is what it is. I think he's awesome still. But if you're the Buffalo Bills, and in season, mid-season, you fire Ken Dorsey, and you move on at offensive coordinator, how do you bring back Sean McDermott? Every year it's the same story in the playoffs. Every year it's Stephon Diggs sitting on that field watching the Chiefs celebrate. I think you have to make the change, and I think you have to make the change right now because Jim Harbaugh is still available. I know he's taking a second interview with the Chargers. It looks like that's where he's going. Bill Belichick is still available. And if I'm a young team, like if I'm Atlanta, if I'm Carolina, I don't know that I want Bill Belichick, but if I'm ready to win this year, next year, the year after that, right now with the Buffalo Bills, I want Bill Belichick to go in there because Sean McDermott, he's not it, man. It's not even just the weird stuff that happened away from the sideline, off the field, with the weird quotes and whatnot. It's that I don't know how good of a head coach this guy is. Would you not want to go coach Josh Allen, go coach Buffalo? Especially like when you look at that division, man. The Jets, you're bringing back Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be 40-plus years old, playing behind the worst offensive line in all of football. I don't know how you fix that thing in just one offseason. The Dolphins, are they ever going to win a game against a playoff team or in cold weather? Probably not. I like Mike McDaniel, but I don't know. I don't think Tua is that guy, I think we learned. And then the Patriots, who are just like, hey, we're going to rebuild the next couple of years. If they weren't, then they would have hired Mike Vrabel. So I would rather – now, if that job becomes available, I know everything I said about, like, the Chargers. I would rather go coach Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills than the Chargers and be in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. If I'm Harbaugh, dude, I know, like – Josh Allen threw some bad interceptions. So did Brett Favre. Brett Favre won a Super Bowl. The next year went to another Super Bowl. That's what I feel like if Brian Daboll ended up becoming the head coach of the Buffalo Bills and not the New York Giants, they're probably still playing football, or they're probably playing in a Super Bowl this year. I mean, Josh Allen was at his best when Brian Daboll was there. Maybe that's what he needs, though, is I don't even think you need to fix him. But yesterday, again, like, how do you go back, you watch the film today, and live with yourself when everything was wide open underneath? You had two guys on the check down. Like, you have to take the check down.
It wasn't Vrabel that was the problem. Any smart Titans fan would understand.
Hey, blame Tannehill.
Vrabel was not the problem. But now, Brian Callahan is going to be compared to Mike Vrabel, right? We talk about the big shadow that Kalen DeBoer is going to have now at Alabama going in where Nick Saban left some very big shoes and a very big shadow. That's good. That's an almost impossible task. But even to this level, Brian Callahan is going to be compared to Vrabel, and people will say, right, if it's not well, Vrabel was able to get the most out of guys. Look at this guy. He hasn't, and it doesn't mean that he can't go in and be a great coach. It doesn't mean he can't go in and be, the next great young offensive mind that turns a team around in a couple of years from offensive coordinator to head coach. But right now, we don't know that, and it looks very questionable when you see a team eroding with really no plan last offseason, or really any idea what their identity was. It felt like this year. No real improvements. It just went, okay, you went out and signed D-Hop, but like, is that really going to make you better? You don't have a quarterback that can get him the ball consistently, which is exactly what we saw. So the Titans feel like a team that's just kind of spinning their wheels right now, trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah, and maybe, like, when you look at it, right, I mean, them and the Saints the last couple of years have kind of had the same issue. They're not good enough to actually compete or win a Super Bowl, but they still had some dudes. Like, they still had some vets that they had to pay or they had to look to move away from. And there was no market for Derrick Henry. Like, in Madden, there's a market for Derrick Henry because he's a 92 rated running back, but in real life, he's pushing 30, and he's got 1 billion carries the last 5-6 years since Mike Vrabel took over as head coach. So, like, maybe what you're doing is Vrabel doesn't want to rip the Band-Aid off because he doesn't want to coach a rebuilding team. Nobody wants to. So he's like, all right, let's run it back with the corpse of Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry and go out and sign D-Hop, even though he's approaching 30 years old, and bring back Tart and all these guys on the defensive side of the ball. And maybe now it's like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. So we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. You go elsewhere where you could go coach a contender, and we're going to rebuild with a young guy who, you don't maybe want Will Levis. Maybe you can't turn Will Levis into an NFL quarterback, but Brian Callahan can. The cheeks clinch a little bit, right? When you saw that in the first half, and you always see that. Kyle Shanahan is a great offensive mind. Even when he was with Atlanta just calling plays, though, got a little too cute in the second half of that game against the Patriots with the 28-3 lead. And in these playoff games, not the best game manager or best in-game decision maker. Great offensive mind, great play caller. I'm not saying he's not a great head coach, but I don't know, because we're always including myself, Dan Campbell, glorified gym teacher. I don't trust him in big games. I don't know, man. I kind of trust Dan Campbell more, actually, in this NFC's championship game because, again, he's playing with house money. And if it's 4th down in his own territory, he's going to go for it. If it's 4th and 1 in his own territory, we've seen this. Kyle Shanahan is going to play the field position game. He's going to punt the ball away. Campbell's going to leave that explosive offense on the field. And again, you could take advantage of their pass defense. Their pass rush is good. Fred Warner, their linebackers are good, but their secondary is not great. Green Bay should have won that game again. So, yeah, man, I kind of think the Lions are a dangerous team because of Dan Campbell and everything he represents. Everything he said that we made fun of has come to it's come true now. The team that can and the team that will. This, that, biting the kneecaps. That stuff doesn't work when you win 4 or 5 games. That message wears thin. But when you're a game away from the Super Bowl, guys are buying into this right now. And this is, but I'm saying this, they're playing with house money and they got nothing to lose. At the same time, man, they haven't won a playoff game since 1991. There's no guarantee they're just going to be back next year.
Oh,
Goff
absolutely.
could become a pumpkin again if Ben Johnson gets a job. He's so important. Aaron Glenn might even get a job. I don't think he should. Not a head coaching job. But who knows, man? The Bengals played in a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I don't know that we're ever going to see them in another one.
And look, I've known this, but they don't always send out the info that totally quantifies it. But the traders there have told me over the course of the season that the Michigan Wolverines, the Detroit Lions, and so on. But earlier today, John Ewing sent this out, and this is just fascinating. What he did was he sent out the early splits nationally for BetMGM on the conference championship games. But then he also broke out from those how the local markets are betting the local team. And granted, okay, the Kansas City Chiefs are in Kansas City, Missouri, but Kansas is, for practical purposes, it's their regional market since Missouri doesn't have sports betting yet. Missouri, you need to get with it, okay? Let's go.
Exactly.
So he did basically a breakout of these markets. In Michigan, in this first day since this line went up, 94% of spread tickets, 91% of spread money on the Lions. They are hammering the Lions. So much so that when you just look at the national splits, gentlemen, you've got a little bit more than 2-to-1 tickets and and 3-to-1 money early going on the Lions. Now, look, I think the Niners are a public team too, and I think this is going to come back some, particularly with the Nevada market, because when the Nevada market weighs in, they definitely get on the Niners here. I think we've talked about that before, but there's so much activity in Michigan that you can see its impact on the national numbers with the Lions having such a huge edge over a really good Niners team at home. So it's fascinating. And then further illustrated, the Kansas market, 85% of early tickets, 88% of money on Chiefs on the spread. And then Maryland, about 3-to-1 tickets and 2-to-1 money on the Ravens -3. So there are definitely some regional biases creeping in. And I'm going to check, and I'll tweet it out at some point. You'll see it. I'm going to check with my guy, Scott Shelton, for BetMGM Nevada. John Ewing wasn't able to break out Nevada, and obviously there's no California market. But as I've mentioned before many times, I'm sure, the California market comes here and bets a lot, and they're certainly betting a lot on the Niners, especially in northern Nevada, but they certainly make their way down here as well.